So I've been banging, bending, welding, and fabricating for days now, days and nights. And we made huge progress on our Miata freak show here. So where we last left off, we had the motor set in place, you know, get a rough idea how it was going to get mocked up. And we saw our limitations, you know, where we needed to make space. One of the areas was the oil filter area. So that was here. Now we've got this set. The oil filter has all the room in the world. No problem there. Another problem was the valve cover, because the valve cover sits right about here. No room to get it off, so we raised the cowl. And now there's plenty of room to get it on and off. And even if we go to a taller deck 225, there will still be enough room to get the valve cover on and off. The motor is actually going to be a stressed member in this car. We're using the original alternator bracket. It's got a cast steel alternator bracket. And we're welding 2 tabs over here, and this is where that side of the motor will attach. Over here, we're going to build a shelf from this point right here out to meet the motor. So the engine will actually be a stressed member of the car, stiffening it up. And listen, we've moved it back as far as we possibly can and as low as we possibly can. I got it about an inch lower than it was the last time you guys saw it. And it's moved back. So the way we've got this car set up right now, it's going to have a lower center of gravity than the original car, and it'll have 100% of the drivetrain weight between the axles. So we'll scale this thing. Next week, after this week, we have a thing this weekend. Next week, we'll get the motor back in here, get a transmission in it, and we'll scale it to get an exact idea of how things sit. But that's what we did under the hood here. So, the Doghouse. This was a major project. And it was major because we couldn't just build a simple Doghouse, something like, you know, like let's say a van, you know, where it's just the same on both sides. This Doghouse is asymmetrical, and it's shaped specifically for those clearance issues. So this is what we've got. We had to move. We had to intrude into the passenger side foot box by about 3.5, 4 inches. So that's where we're sitting over here. And this contour right here is the transmission bell housing, and enough room to get up in there and do the bolts on it. So that's what this is all about. This is the knee bar from the original dash frame. So this is attached, you know, where it normally attaches, and we've got it welded here, and there'll be a triangulated gusset up here in this corner to mount this. Actually, this will be mounted more solid than it was in the original car. On this side, we've got the same wire. Okay, so on this side, this one here holds the steering column in place. All right. Well, it's all got to get moved around. So this will get mounted like this, and probably attached here and here. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do with the Doghouse on this side yet, but that's that part of it. And then this was a major issue because you can reach everything on that engine except for the starter. The starter was a big problem because you've got the exhaust comes down over here, and the intake manifold blocks it from the top. You can't get it from the bottom, so the starter needed its own separate access panel. So we built this. We've got 2 flanges here, and we'll have an access panel that you can just slide on and off. And I'll probably make that out of a glassed-in piece of plywood, so this way you keep vibration on it to a minimum, and it'll more or less seal without having to seal it. So to get at the starter, all you'll have to do is just pull this panel back, and you're all good there. So you look at this, right? This is like a real Frankenstein creation, and you look at this and you say, that's ridiculous. You know, you can't, you know, it's going to look like hell, right? No, watch this. There's a lot of time and engineering built into this device. Ready? All right. There you go. That's the original dash frame. So we're losing the glove compartment, but you know, you don't really need a glove compartment. So we're losing that, and we're losing our access to heater controls and whatnot, but you know, it's a toy. This will get covered in the same material as the rest of the interior of the car, so this is just going to disappear and blend in. This is where our switch plate is going to be for all of our, you know, on and off things. And then we're going to build a cluster here with the tachometer, an oil pressure gauge, and a water temperature gauge, which is all the gauging we need for this thing. And that's pretty much, am I leaving anything out? Yeah, well, we got this thing. This is what we'll weld the switches and everything. It's a little hokey. We'll do a nice turned aluminum, you know, brushed aluminum type of thing in there, and same for this. So that's where we're at with the car. I'm happy. I'm really happy with the way this is turning out so far. It's actually beyond my expectations. So that's that. Now the next step is we're going to work on the motor. The plan for the motor on this thing is I want to build a really hot 170. You know, something with cam and compression and porting and all of that. But to get this car running, to expedite the process of getting this car running, we have that 170. And we're going to put it together. We're going to put it in the car stock. I haven't fired the engine. I don't know. Okay, let's go over to the motor. I have no idea what its running condition is like. Oh, and this is that bracket that I was talking about. That'll be the passenger side motor mount. So there'll be two ears welded to the frame rail, and that'll sit in there. And you can see it's attached to both the block and the head. This is a really sturdy piece. It's twice what we would need to actually do the job. I have no idea what the running condition of this engine is. So what we're going to do is stick the intake manifold on it that we're going to use, bolt the transmission to the back so we got a starter, and we'll fire it on the floor next week. Before we put the intake manifold on it, let me show you what we're going to do with that. So this is the cast iron 1-barrel manifold, and that's not going to get used. This is our aluminum Super 6, and you'll see here, this is worth some power on a Slant 6. You'll see here the way the manifolds join at the heat box. So this is designed for you know, street driving, keeping the thing from icing up, intake manifold, you know, getting the plenum hot. What we're going to do is we're going to grind this section down, right? Get about 1/4 of an inch off of here, right? Because this is open now to the exhaust, and here's the heat flapper valve. This is going to go also. So what we're going to do is we're going to grind this down, and we're going to weld a plate over the top of this to isolate the intake manifold from. Now, people are going to be like, "You're going to kill the drivability. It's going to ice up in the winter." This is a toy. We're looking to make power with this. We're going to have fun with this. But that'll be a pretty significant performance improvement on these things. If you got a Slant 6 and you've ever noticed the difference between how it runs when it's hot and how it runs when it's cold, it's night and day. Like when it's cold, the thing is snappy, it wants to go. And as it gets hotter, it starts to get sluggish. And a big reason for that is the excessive amount of heat directed to the base of the carburetor, or to the plenum. So we're going to do this modification, get our carburetor on there, bolt all this on the engine, and fire it up on the floor just to make sure we have a runner. I'm hoping it doesn't knock. I'm hoping it doesn't smoke. If it does, we're just going to have to tear it down and go from there. But we'll do that next week. That'll be the next thing we do. And also next week, we're going to, because we've got a lot of naysayers. Why are you putting this big, heavy, you're going to destroy the car's handling, this big, heavy piece of iron, right? I believe that with all of the stuff that's been removed from this car, our weight is going to be at or below the original shipping weight on this car. So I'm looking at, I'm going to guesstimate she's going to hit the scale right about 2,000 pounds. So we'll mock everything together and get the scales underneath it and get an exact weight and exact weight distribution. So, but I mean, I'm having fun with this project. I love the way it's turning out so far.
And I'm already, right, we already started talking about the next Miata, because there's going to be another Miata.
Yes, yes,
You know?
yes.
There's going to be another Miata. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I found something I really like. And that's it for now. I'll see you tomorrow.